Welcome, everyone. I'm Morgan Appel, Assistant Dean for Education and Community Outreach at the Division of Extended Studies at UC San Diego, and this is Creative Conversations. In our last episode, we were introduced to Fundación Tú Más Yo and had an opportunity to explore the non-conventional ways in which highly involving and synergistic strategies served as catalysts for creating capacity, social capital, and community well-being in southeastern Tijuana. Recurring themes in this work included the importance of moving at the speed of goodwill and trust, consensus building, translating purpose into action with a sense of urgency, the smaller wins that mean a lot, and most importantly, resilience. But what do these strategies look like when they are acted upon? In other words, how do we move from purpose to action in very specific ways? And perhaps more importantly, how do we know that things are working as they should? I am joined in the virtual studio today by Toñe Beguerisse and Dalia Rodriguez, two visionary leaders from Fundación Tú Más Yo, who will provide additional context for this work through the Avante program and focus supports for a local school that fell victim to the pandemic. Toñe, Dalia, welcome. I'm excited to dive a bit deeper into the work of the foundation at a very local level. Before we get started, might you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you both became involved in Fundación and this type of work in general? So Toñe, perhaps we can begin with you.
Well, briefly, I would like to tell you that I'm an educator and I have been working for the NGOs for 40 years. And I retired in the 2014. I was working at the International Community Foundation in Tijuana, at the same time that Richard Kai was working as a director in the ICF, the International Community Foundation in San Diego. And I'm telling you this because we have a very beautiful collaboration. We bring together the two foundations as a true partnership. It was great, and we learn a lot about how can two foundations work together in different countries. After my retirement, I worked as a social consultant for NGOs and foundations, and that's how I met Tú Más Yo. I was hired by Fundación Tú Más Yo as a consultant, and I saw a well-consolidated foundation, with a very important structure, and they have guidelines. And after a few months, Antonio and Clemente, directors of the board, asked me to join the Foundation Tú Más Yo, and I have been working with them for 5 years, and I can tell you that it has been, I'm so happy, and I worked full-time for the foundation. I promised I was not going to work anymore full-time, and that's a lie. And that's a lie because, as you mentioned in the other session, you say that working with people and helping people is an addiction, and it is an addiction. When you start, you cannot stop. So that's very briefly what I have been doing for and how I met to Fundación Tú Más Yo.
Toñe, after a lifetime dedicated to this work, it seems as though it is something from which you can't retire. If it's part of your DNA, if it's as addictive as you say, it looks like you have a lot more work in front of you now. Dalia, you are an incredible resource for the Fundación and to Avante, which you'll discuss later. Could you perhaps introduce yourself and tell us how you came into this line of work?
Yes, of course. Good morning, Morgan, staff and audience. Yes, my name is Dalia Rodriguez. I was born and raised in Tijuana. I've been a fan of the work done by the Fundación Tú Más Yo for many, many years, and finally I became an active part of it. I have a degree in business, international business, and I'm the director of Avante, which is the educational program of Fundación Tú Más Yo. It is a real pleasure to be in this conversation with all of you.
So Dalia, how do you get from being a fan to being actually on the team?
Well, because I finally said yes. I was working in the manufacturing industry, and also I was working with a developer of real estates, and we always were in close contact with communities, with less privileged communities, and I was being very involved and very aware of the works that the Fundación Tú Más Yo was doing. And finally, I received a board, an invitation from the board to join them. So that's why I'm here today.
And was it a big change from work in manufacturing, work in international business to do this sort of work in community development?
Well, in both, we as social responsible companies, we are in very close contact with the community. So in this kind of work in the Fundación Tú Más Yo, I'm doing this directly with the community with no intermediary. So I'm in the other phase, I'm in the other part of the work right now.
Fantastic. The last time in our last episode, we really talked about sort of broad-based approaches to community development and capacity building with the Fundación. And Toñe, I know that much of your time in Cañadas del Florido has been dedicated to transforming a local school, one that suffered several acts of vandalism and theft during perhaps what we would call the worst part of the pandemic. I'm hoping maybe you could help us set the stage to understand, why was it so important to work at this school? Why was it so important for the work of the foundation and using the school as a rallying point for members of the community? Perhaps you could talk about who was involved in the effort and how it was led.
Well, Morgan, I would like to go and explain the process that we went through, and then we can see how we end in the school. And the Fundación Tú Más Yo changed their activities, as Antonio and Alex mentioned, but without leaving the DNA, which was the community services. But the circumstances of the pandemic pushes us to take new directions to for the foundation. In December 2019, the pandemic alert emerged saying, stay at home. And Morgan, you know that you and all the people are here, and many people can stay at home and work from home. But our question was, how are we going to tell our people in the community that they have to stay at home because they must work for the daily food? It was impossible to tell them you have to stay at home. So how can we help the community in this situation? You know, it was happening that when we received a letter from the ONU, that we belong to the Global Pact from several years, and they mentioned that most of the NGOs were helping the hospitals and the health centers, but they were concerned about, for example, garbage collection in the city, or they were concerned about the public transportation. You know, what would have happened if the transportation collapsed, or the garbage collection collapse? It would have been a chaos in the hospitals, in the city. So talking with the, our board of directors and analyzing these aspects of the ONU, they decided to start a program that we called on a safe route, meaning that we were going to help the transportation close to our community center, because all these people, they have to go to work. It was impossible to tell them stay at home, So we start this program and we ask donors, and we're so proud to tell you that in a few weeks, all these people gave us money to start the program, and we gave the drivers of the buses all the equipment, and we put in the buses, the face mask and the gel And something very important, we put the space, for a safe, how to say the safe distance. But we learned that the people didn't know what was going on. Why do we have to use masks? Why do we have to use gel? So we designed a flyer that they could read and understand. That was the first lesson that education came to us. We have to educate these people and tell them what's going on, because stay at home was a nonsense. So the program was a success. Of course, we select the transportation that is close to our community, and because we couldn't help all the buses in the city, so we select just the transportation near to our community. The program was, we have the program for several months, and then we found out that the dynamic of the families was they leave at home at 4 or 5 in the morning, stay away of the house all day, come back at 7 or 8, and the pandemic was there and the schools were closed. So our question was, and the children, what are we going to do with the children? They stay alone in the house. The schools were closed for for 2 years. The Secretary of Education, SEP, gave classes, but the problem was that all these classes was perfect for private schools or schools near the city. But our communities, they didn't have the technology, they didn't have computers, they didn't have anything to take the classes, so they left the schools were alone, and what happened? They were vandalized. So parents at work with one cellular, maybe when they come back to the house, they have the cellular, or maybe it was no more, enough payment in the cellular to continue using it. So the kids actually, they were alone, 2 years from March, I remember the date, March 26 to March 28, the schools were closed. The problem aggravates, I told you, because it was the schools were vandalized. The children began to start small jobs, selling candies, or maybe washing cars, so they could collect like 50 pesos, 60 pesos, and then go back to their homes with a small amount of money. Parents were happy because they bring money, and it was impossible to take classes. So for 2 years, these kids didn't have any classes. The problem increased, when you have kids alone in a house, what are they doing? And also it was a big problem with the teachers, because the teachers became, they lost motivation, they couldn't teach, they couldn't be in contact with the directors of the school, or neither the kids. So it was a big problem. In January of 22, the government said you can go back to classes. And fine, yeah. The people in Tijuana went back to school, and public or private, but the people in the city. But again, and our children, how are they going to go back to the school if it's vandalized? They don't have bathrooms, they don't have classrooms, they don't have anything. So it was impossible to tell them go back to school. And that's when we start thinking about, we need to change completely and concentrate on the school and put these kids to school, fix the bathrooms, the classes, And it was now another way for the to work for the foundation. When we start doing this to the school, we didn't want to have to go back to a traditional school. We wanted to go back with a new face, with new programs. We wanted to just a drastic change and rebuild this design. Rebuilding the school, we need to have, as I said, bathrooms, classrooms, and create a model for education. So we start thinking on extracurriculum classes with financial study, give them financial studies and technology. We need, and Dalia is going to explain the Avante program that borns because we needed to give them the tools so they could have these classes. So our goal was to have a higher level of education. Of course, they have to follow the SEP program. That's not optional. They have to follow the SEP, but we have to give them something, to add something to the program. Just to finish this, we have to think that the kids lost 2 years. So think about this. The kids that are right now in junior high, they didn't go through 4th to 5th and 6th grade. See, the kids right now, they know how to read, but they don't understand what they read. The kids right now, they do mathematics, they add and they subtract, but they don't know why or for what, you know. So the level of education right now is 4th grade. So that was a very concern for us. It's very sad, and that's why we didn't stop on saying this is very sad. We put our hands to work, and that's how, and Dalia will explain how Avante started.
So, Toñe and Dalia, let me just make sure that I understand the picture, because this seems to be really a multifaceted and multi-layered and very complex challenge. So, of course, you are going to have learning loss, and we know here in the United States, here in California in particular, we're looking at least a year. I know that in some parts of the world, it's exponentially worse. I know that there is also, beyond learning loss, content loss, there is also sort of the trauma associated, the socio-emotional trauma associated with it. And Dalia, perhaps, I think we're trying to envision what this school looked like. Toñe, you mentioned it was vandalized. You mentioned that there were several repairs. But Dalia, perhaps you could tell us a little bit, when you saw the school, what were your impressions?
Well, my first impression, and what I am sharing when I present this project, is that I was in a war zone. Everything was vandalized. There were no toilets. There were windows shattered. I couldn't believe it. It was very shocking to me, and exactly. The way that I always describe this is being in a war zone. It was so painful to see a school like that. These persons that do this damage, they didn't even have something valuable. They just damaged this facility, and that was my first impression. And now, when I see the pictures of before and after, I really can't believe it. We're talking about the same school. I think that was the impression your staff felt when you guys were visiting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and Dalia, could you tell us a little bit about the school itself? What level of students does it serve? It's a public school, I assume?
Yes, of course. It's a public elementary school. In our country, the elementary school consists in 6 grades, obviously from 1st to 6th. We have a population of approximate to 1,200 kids. coming from all parts of the country. There's a lot of internal immigration. Maybe the kids were born in Tijuana, but certainly most of the parents have not. They're coming from other cities to look for a better job, for a better way of life, because always the border is portrayed as since it's closer to the USA, it can offer better possibilities. So this is why all these people and all those farmers are migrating to our city, and we receive with open hands, but that sometimes can be a problem because they are not enough services or enough schools. But this is a way I can portray the school right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting model that you both propose, because my sense is that this was not a school that was doing a lot of online education.
No.
Previously. It was face-to-face. And I remember actually seeing the campus and really seeing that in many cases it was stripped bare, or things were destroyed, things were stolen from it. And I find it intriguing that you'd go from a very much in-person model to a model that is also based in part online. And the model is intriguing because it is a hybrid model, and you're actually establishing a space for that. And I know as educators, Dalia, we are very much aware of not only the digital divide, so it's not a matter of have and have not, but it's really a series of digital divides that are growing into chasms. And I think we talked about that in our last episode, but these are divides that negatively impact learners who don't have access to technology. So it's not really just I have it or I don't, but it's the degrees of having not. It has to do with speed. It has to do with things like memory. And I know that Avante, the work that you oversee, attends to that. So I'm hoping you could talk a little bit about Avante and how does it connect to your work in Cañadas del Florero specifically?
Well, our Avante program precisely aims to reduce this educational gap, offering students and teachers from this school access to the new educational technologies. As its name Avante, which means virtual access for the new educational technology refers. So the main two objectives of this program is first, number one, to offer equipment and knowledge so students and teachers can not only know, but dominate the educational platforms that are available for online educations. And number two, I might say, to implement the content of our educational program, which consists in a wide range, very complete courses to these students and teachers so they can potentiate their education horizons, incentivize their interest or passion for learning more, thus allowing them to have a better professional future. I think in this way is how Fundación Tú Más Yo looks to contribute for cities in construction, which I might say its main mission.
Mm-hmm. And could you tell me a little bit about the online curriculum? Is it solely curriculum that is developed in Mexico, or is it also, are you able to access content from the United States regionally?
Okay, of course. Well, right now this program consists in 8 courses in which, by the way, UCSD, my university, participates. We have courses from empreneurism, financial courses. We have also STEAM courses, and that's our curriculum right now. But these possibilities are expanding because of the connection or the alliances. For example, with my university from UCSD, we have access to a broader themes for a broader group of people, like students, like teachers, like even parents. And that's how our educational program is conformed right now, but it's very flexible.
It's really a comprehensive effort. So you have parents and teachers and students all together, somewhat speaking a common language in a different dialect. And I think that this type of education is unique. From your vantage point, how do you think everything is going?
I think it's very good. They are so excited to participate because they are very realistic about the value of these courses. They know they have a cost, and we are, as a foundation and working with our allies, we are giving these courses for free. But not only the financial cost, we are always telling them how lucky, if I can use that word, how lucky they are to obtain these educational resources from such important organizations like UCSD, like for instance, we work with a company called Vesta, which is a very well-renowned company that is devoted to the development of industrial parks. And also through them, we are giving some courses of entrepreneurism. So they are so happy, meaning the community, so happy to receive this content. And especially because with this type of actions, we are putting this elementary public school to the level of a private school, or maybe in a better position, talking about the educational hybrid content we are offering to them. So they are taking this opportunity, they are collaborating with us, parents are thrilled about this, and it's it has a very high social impact, but also it's a beautiful labor.
And all of this is taking place at the school.
Exactly, mainly at our school, but also the facilities of our community center. Actually, in a few days, we are going to inaugurate our first hybrid classroom in this school in Plantel Cañadas de Florido. So there's not only about the rehab of a facility, yes, exactly, but also to open this digital education content for them in their school, not only for the students, not only for the teachers, but the community in general. You don't have to be a student to receive this education. You don't have to live nearby, in the nearby areas, to have access to this educational program we are offering.
It's very exciting. Toñe, perhaps I could go back to you, because this really seems to represent very well the type of work that the foundation is doing, which is truly binational. And I know in San Diego, we talk very much about the fluidity of culture, language, socioeconomics, things that inextricably intertwine us at a region. But a lot of these things, when we talk about them, they're very large scale, they're very big sweeping initiatives. Maybe you could tell us how this is being played out at the Fundación. For example, smaller scale partnerships with the Junior Chamber of Commerce and UC San Diego.
I'm in charge of the fundraising and alliance. So that's the key for us, alliance. And we live in a region, you know, that Tijuana, San Diego region, you know. So to have this relationship with other organizations in San Diego and open the lives for the kids, we have to teach them that the world doesn't end at the border, that there is another country. We have to learn, and this is a win-win, because also the kids in San Diego will learn the same, you know, and will respect the way that we live. And the children, they will have the opportunity to learn another language, technology, respect, competition, healthy competition, you know, even scholarships. We have to talk with our donors about scholarships. We have to give them the opportunity to go other places and learn. So the alliances with the Chamber of Commerce, with you, see what happened. And that's why I mentioned in the beginning of the interview about the relationship with ICF and with the two foundations, FIC and ICF, because see, it was a very good relationship with Richard Kai. He started giving us the STEAM program. They couldn't keep going with the STEAM program, and they introduced it to UCSD. See how wonderful what's going on right now, this alliance. So the same alliance that we're doing as an adults, we have to do them with the kids. And we have to I don't know, do something with the border, but we have to be allowed to take the kids to San Diego and the kids come to Tijuana, because we have beautiful places, and it's a win-win. As I said, alliances with the junior commerce or with UCSD, or the university students in your university coming to Tijuana and teach. We know that the language English is very important, so there are many things that we can do together. And for us, alliances are very, very important. We're strongly believers on alliances. And this is let's say, like, it's the future, as just Dalia mentioned, for an entrepreneur, multiple links among students.
And I think our region has always been linked for a variety of reasons. But what strikes me is very interesting, because we can talk about border policy and we can talk about things, but really what it seems that it comes down to, whether you are a professional or you are a pupil, it's all about relationships. It's all about individual relationships. It's about your connection to the Institute of the Americas, and then your connection to the university. And, you can certainly do that by policy mandates, but it seems a lot easier when it's by handshake.
Yes, relationships are the best way for the fundraising. There are ways to do fundraising with applying for money for a program, or do a big event, but the real fundraising is relationship, because the donors give the money because they believe in the people that are asking for the money. That's the truth. That's life. If you are, they tell us, if Dalia is going to handle the money, if Antonio is the board of directors, that's why we have the board of the directors that we have, because people trust them. People trust me because I have been in the area for 40 years. And that's why they give us money. And education is the key word for the donors, because right now, art is very important, sports is very important, elderly people is very important. But, well, maybe that's because I'm an educator, but education for me is the only way. If you want to be healthy, if you want to eat, if you want to travel, if you want to whatever, you need education. And it's a right for the kids. It's not that we are so nice, good people, how lovely we are, that we are helping the people, not the kids. No, this is a human right that the kids, all the kids in the world, they have the right to have education, and not just ABC education. We need to give them more.
And it's interesting that you mention education as a human right, because I know that the work that we do within the Division of Extended Studies, particularly through education and community outreach, all of our work is based on the premise that education is a fundamental human right. And I think Kofi Annan from the United Nations suggested that, and really it all flows from that point. But what strikes me, Toñe, is that you have found quite a wonderful balance between fiscal capital and social capital, and really have found sort of an equivalency between the two, that you can't have one without the other. Now, Dalia, back to you. So I'm wondering, as you gain momentum through Avante, so as you're pushing through and you're doing this wonderfully creative work, what are some of the things that you have learned? And what does the future hold for Avante? What does the future hold for Fundación Tú Más Yo?
Well, what I have learned a lot, but if I can just highlight some of that learning that I had, I may say the importance of listening to the community. As Toñe already mentioned, at the first stage of the pandemic, we went to the streets to give away hand sanitizers and face masks. Then the community told us, we have a problem with the education of our children, and we moved directly to that path. Also, I can include in this learning the social cost of having adults that didn't receive proper education at their young ages, taking important decisions about our country right now. That's so painful. And especially the importance of collaboration instead of assistantialism.
And what does the future look like for Avante? What would you like to see 5 years from now? You mentioned the importance of educating adults. Perhaps is that part of it?
Yes, of course. Adults and teachers, adults in the forms of teachers and parents are always equals in our educational program. How do I see the future of Avante? I see it very, very bright, a very bright future. We are going to focus on education. Fundación Tú Más Yo, focusing on education, and to replicate our school transformation project in other schools in the same condition to implement our hybrid educational program. At this point, Morgan, 40 schools couldn't return to in-person classes yet due to its damage or vandalization level. And now, so to open schools to the communities, as I was stating before, even if you're not a student or live nearby the school, you should have access to the school in a form of a community center.
That is really something incredible. And what I want to underscore is that prioritizing education, prioritizing online or hybrid education was not the impetus of the board of directors or the leadership of Fundación, but really came from the community who said, this is a need that we have. How can we work together? How can we collaborate to make sure these needs are addressed? Now, as you know, the title of this series is Creative Conversations. And what we want to be able to do is really communicate innovation and creativity to people across the globe who are watching, who may be engaged in similar work or may have questions about how to go about it. And I'm wondering, and this is Toñe, for you and Dalia both, are there any messages that you would like to give to our viewing audience, those who are either in education or similar professions, about what you've learned, anything you think they should know?
Yes, before answering that question, I would like to add something that Dalia said about have this school as a model. And for me, as a fundraiser, this school is going to be my main tool when I go to donors and tell the school was like this and now it's like this. So, because sometimes the donors say, and where is my money? You know, I gave money and where is it? Well, where is it? This kid's finished school. This kid is in high school. This kid went to university. So I think I just want to make that point. But about my message will be like, I think it's very important to join forces, that it's never too late to help, and it's never too little. It's anything you can give. You can give gifts, you can give money, you can give time. You know, it's very important that people learn that. Sometimes when I see a friend and I ask for help, I say, well, what can I do, Toñe? I mean, you have 2,000, I mean, one 1,200 kids. I don't have enough money to help you. How much money do you have? Well, maybe I can give you $100. Give it to me. Because $100 plus $100 will make the difference. So if we join forces with education and with the principals of the school, with the parents, because the parents at the beginning didn't believe it, because there was too good to be true, right? You know, we're going to do this and that, and the bathrooms and sports, but now that they have it, now that they have seen that it's real, now they are working together with us. So I would tell the people that as little as they can give, as big as they can give, join forces with us, and then we can help, as Dalia said, not just one school, but maybe another one, and maybe 40, you know, because it's possible. It's possible.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Toñe, I think what you're saying is that when we're thinking creatively, we're thinking collaboratively, we're thinking in a flexible way where, you know, the solutions we may have envisioned may be different from what they actually are. And I guess also what I'm hearing is that you go from too good to be true to be too good and too true, if you think in an innovative way. Dalia, what about you? You are a creative thinker. Interested to see what you think about all of this.
What can I tell you? We are always looking for allies, not only for financial resources, but also to share a same vision about education, and also to share about, as I mentioned, the cost of not having well-educated kids to make important choices about a country in the future as adults. So that will be my message. We can always welcoming new alliances to make these dreams come true, as we are doing right now.
Toñe, Dalia, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Like in any great conversation, time seems to have just flown by. And I know we will see you again very soon, and hopefully on site at the foundation. So thank you to you both. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of you for tuning in. And for all of us at Creative Conversations, I have been your host, Morgan Appel. Now go out and change the world.